Welcome, everybody, to the Implying Weekend podcast. That was Great Went by Sunworm. They will be having shows on June 1st and June 4th at the Way Out Club, June 18th at the RFT Music Showcase, and another later show at Kismet August 2nd. A big thank you to them. I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Brendan Olson, and I am here with Haley Fields.
Hi, everybody.
So today we have a great show for you. We have an interview with Emma Trammell about the race issue we discussed earlier this week in the group. And we also have kind of a special stunt for you, I guess that's what we would call it, where we're going to be trying the different food suggestions that was given to us in the thread earlier this week. So that will probably be disgusting. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm not too excited about this one, but I mean, you know, I'm going to try anything.
Right. I think we've got the pizza one with apple butter. We're doing the pretzels and salsa, which doesn't sound too bad, I don't think. And then we're also doing one that was actually on a different thread, but it's the milk and saltine crackers. And that is the one I'm least looking forward to. But without further ado, I'm going to switch us over to the interview with Emma Trammell, who joined us on Skype. Here we go.
Yay!
All right. This is Emma Trammell. Everyone should know her from the group. She's pretty active on Implying We Can Discuss Live. She is here to talk to us today about race and what is involved in the conversation. If you want to go ahead and introduce yourself, Emma.
Hi, my name is Emma Trammell, and like you said, you probably know me from the group. And yeah, basically I was really involved in the discussion because last semester I took a course in anthropology over human variation, which is essentially about how humans vary across the world and about biological differences and stuff like that. But in general, I studied neuroscience at the University of Missouri St. Louis, and I just graduated with a BS in psychology and a certificate in neuroscience.
Wow, that's pretty impressive. I do apologize for any quality issues we are having. We are having some technical difficulties with Skype, so that's what's going on there. And we are calling in over Skype, so we apologize. But anyway, back to the conversation. So where did you say you go to school at?
I go to UMSL. Well, I just graduated from UMSL.
Gotcha. Do you have any plans to continue your education after UMSL?
Yeah, so I'm going to do research at WashU for a couple years, and then I'm going to go into a PhD program probably in the fall of 2018, and probably go into the research of psychedelics or altered states of consciousness in general.
So you're going to be a drug expert?
Yeah, I guess you could say that.
Perfect. All right. So what piqued your interest in the study of that course?
Well, we were encouraged to take courses outside of our specialty, and basically I had heard about it before, about how it was about how race has no biological basis, and I kind of wanted to learn more about that because everybody always assumes that if we have separate races, there must be some reason for why we have divided people into races. So, you know, finding out that that's not true, I wanted to know more about that.
Gotcha. Okay, so there was a lot of talk about stereotyping being different from racism in the group conversation that we had. Do you agree with that? Can you go into further detail about that?
So I do think that stereotypes are different from racism. So we stereotype more than just people. We stereotype everything. It's when we approach a situation that's foreign or a person that's foreign or anything, we want to know what to expect. So we think about what our past experiences with those situations or people are, and then we try to come up with how these situations will play out. So if you encounter a person, you don't know anything about them. The only thing you know is how they look. And so based on how they look, you're going to think about your interactions with previous people who look like them, and then you're going to try to come up with what to expect. And stereotypes aren't always bad. They're just an easy way of thinking whenever you don't have any data. But stereotypes can become really dangerous when you don't acknowledge the fact that stereotypes aren't always true, and they can frequently be false. And they become even more toxic whenever you fail to think about positive interactions you've had with these like previous situations or people. So negative events are much more memorable than positive events. Kind of like we remember nightmares, but we don't really remember good dreams that often. And so we base most of our stereotypes on these negative events. And when that happens, that can lead to racism. But I don't think stereotyping in itself is racism, because racism involves implying that one group is better than another. And I don't think that that's the actual case of stereotyping, but I think that it's kind of a slippery slope if you just rely on those stereotypes.
Right. So people stereotype without being racist, but that's just kind of a symptom of our human pattern recognition from prehistoric era.
Yeah, I mean it's called a heuristic. It's basically it's a quick way to evaluate something and figure out what to expect. And it's something that all of us do, and I don't think that enough of us are aware of it. And I think that we form more stereotypes than we would like to, and we fail to ignore like that there are other possibilities. So, we look at somebody and we're like, oh, that person's tall, they must play basketball. That's not true. Like, they could be tall and not play basketball, which is probably more likely. But we just kind of jump to those conclusions and we just kind of go with them, which is kind of what happens with race. But again, they usually become really negative, and then that's how racism starts.
Gotcha. So when we're talking about race, what is the mistake that most people make when having these types of discussions?
Probably it's the mistake that I made originally, and it's that we think that race has some biological basis. So, and it really doesn't. So there is human variation. Obviously, we can look at people and we all look different, but there's not enough variation between people to say that we're of different races. So in anthropology, there's something called a Wright's FST value, and that measures the difference, that measures the variation between groups and within groups. So the lower the value, the more variation within a group. So like within a group of white people or within a group of black people. And the higher the value, the more variation between groups. So, the greater variation between white people and black people. That's obviously for different groups too, but generally when we're talking about racism, that's what we're talking about, because it's fueled by, it's a really hot topic. So, and the fact of the matter is that skin color is pretty much the only thing that varies heavily between groups. Everything else has more within group variation, meaning that, people who, like, I could be more genetically like somebody who's of a different skin color than like another white person. So it's not really a good reason to base like race off of, considering race is more like a subspecies, meaning that you've been like separated from people and that you've had barriers to keep you from breeding or something like that that's made you look very, very different. But the main thing that we just look at is skin color, and overall we really don't look that much different, and the differences we have can really just be attributed to geographical location. So, people in Africa along the equator, they're really tall and they have really dark skin, but those are adaptations for being able to screen radiation, UV radiation, and for being able to distribute heat throughout their body and make sure that they can get rid of it efficiently. And then, if you go up north, then you have people who are short and stocky to conserve heat, and they're whiter because they don't get as much UV radiation, and they need to make sure they can get enough to make vitamin D. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. At least to me, myself. I don't know about everybody listening. I think there was a little bit disagreement in the group.
Yeah.
Well, it was actually brought up that it seems that some races have done better than other races, and why would that be? It seems like you could draw a conclusion from that if white people are doing better than black people, or Asian people are doing better than white people, then they must be objectively better.
So I think the first thing that needs to be said is I think that's very subjective. So, that's kind of like the whole white people are so technologically advanced, like over in Europe. And then if you go to Africa, which they are actually more technologically advanced than people think, and they don't just all live in huts. That's not accurate at all. But, a lot of people might be content with their way of life, because they have better things to worry about than we do. So we have the luxury of having all of these resources. So I can do things like go spend money on stupid things, or I can do things like afford education. But, in these places where we consider people to be less developed and therefore they haven't done as well, that's because they have bigger things to worry about. They have to worry about having enough food. They have to worry about climate. They have to worry about a lot of things because they don't have the resources to help them adapt. So they have to worry about survival more than the petty things we have to worry about. So, we might say oh, well, why haven't people in developing countries made these technological advances? Well, it's because they have bigger things to do. They have bigger things to focus on. And it also has to do with, I think it all boils down to access to resources. So, and which, socioeconomic status. So, the fact of the matter is that white people are predominantly, if you think of upper class or high SES, it's a lot of white people. And a lot of other races get pushed into lower SES situations, which isn't fair. And I think that's a product of racism. And it's kind of like, colonials way back came in and they're like, oh, look at us. We're all great and everything. And we're going to go and we're going to try to make everybody else like us. But we're still not going to let you be as well off as us. And that's kind of stayed true. And so whenever you don't have as great of access to resources, you can't do everything that everybody else does. So, somebody in low SES, they have to worry about getting food, or they have to worry about just getting by. Somebody in high SES, they can afford to go to college. They can afford to do all of these things. And therefore it makes it seem like they do better. But I guarantee you, if you gave these other people the same resources, they would probably just make as much of themselves. So, it's not like that they're less intelligent. It's not by any means that they're less evolved. That's not even a thing. By any means, we're all evolved at the same amount. It's just, I think it boils down to access to resources, and it's also very relative on what you consider to be better. I personally don't like saying that one group has done better than another. Even though, there are definitely people who are more developed and fortunate, the country has been more developed and has more medical advancements and access to resources, but I don't think it's fair to say that a group is better than another, because that in itself is racism.
Right. Well, so I think what this transfers into nicely is nature versus nurture in that conversation, where we have a group of people that are placed in one area with a certain amount of radiation or a lack of resources, and that brings out different genetic traits than, say, a different area would. Could you go into that a little bit more?
Yeah, so take somebody who lives close to the equator, and they're going to get a ton of radiation, and so what's important there is that you have darker skin to screen out that UV, because you don't want that much UV, and it also will protect you from things like skin cancer and stuff like that. So it's just how, natural selection works. People who have darker skin, they're going to be more likely to survive and not die from things like skin cancer, whereas people who have lighter skin will be more likely to die. Same with other countries. So if you have somebody with dark skin who's in, a higher latitude, they're not going to be getting enough UV radiation because they already are going to be exposed to less, so they can't produce as much vitamin D, which is going to have other detrimental effects. So, and which that's how, skin color really starts, and how a lot of traits start is what you need from that environment. And from there, there are other factors that play into it. So it also is important, those genetics will play a role, but they'll be influenced by the current environment you're in. So you can, have genetic predispositions, but they might not be triggered unless you're in a certain environment. Or moving to a certain environment will trigger changes in the body to help you adapt. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. So I know it was brought up that you said race was a social construct, meaning that, and I know you mentioned this earlier in the interview, that it's there's no biological really base to it. So why would humans come up with this giant construct that has hindered a lot of groups and helped a lot of groups as well?
I think so. What I think started hundreds of years ago, whenever colonials were exploring and they found they went to different countries and different continents, and they're like, oh, these are people that we've never seen before. oh, these people are different than us. They look different, so they couldn't possibly be like us. So then that's why they're like, well, we need to come up with something to call them, even though they didn't realize that, yes, they're actually just like you. So I think that's kind of how race got started. And then I think it's natural for groups to try to get ahead. So, if they're the ones invading a country and they're the ones who can take resources, they're naturally going to be at the top. And I think it's just kind of stayed that way. And it's not how it should be. And it's not fair by any means. But it's been maintained. And then what happened is later on, they tried to use science to prove that there were racial differences. So they were trying to use science to be like, oh, each race evolved from a different person. That was a theory. Or it was that, oh, different races have different brain capacities and stuff like that. And none of these things are true. All these things came up false. But people kept going with it and going with it. And, that's then eugenics happened. And we're like, oh, we can, have a superior race, which also isn't a thing. and is also bad. And one thing, just a fun fact, America was really into eugenics. And people don't realize how heavily invested they were and that they, put a lot of money into other countries like Germany. And then Germany got a little carried away. And then obviously World War II happened. But that kind of all of that ensued after this whole let's make races. But there's been no biological evidence this whole time. But I think that it's continued for power reasons and to help people get ahead. And it's kind of natural. If you think we naturally put ourselves into hierarchies, and I think race just kind of fell into that. And then they get shoved into certain SES, like socioeconomic status, and then stereotypes are created, and then those stereotypes will sometimes become self-fulfilling prophecies. So this kind of goes back to that nature versus nurture thing. So there's something called the Obama effect, where they were given this. It was an achievement test. It was given to black people and white people before Obama was elected president. After he was elected president, the gap that existed in the scores before went away. So the idea behind this is there were a lot of people who are black. They're like, wow, we have a black president now. Maybe all these terrible things that people have been telling us about, that we can't do anything or we're not as good as white people or something like that, because whether or not we want to admit it, people say that stuff and it's not fair and it's not right by any means. Mm-hmm. But it's the idea that maybe these differences are based on, racism affecting how people think, what they think that they're capable of. And, maybe and then that affects motivation. So then people won't try. They'll think this is as good as it's going to get. And because so many people have been beating them down for so long. And, we also know that whenever you beat somebody down, then people tend to feel more powerful. So, and if it works out in their favor, people are going to continue to do it more. Mm-hmm. And I think that that's part of the reason it's carried on. But it's just important to know that it's a social construct, because since there isn't a biological basis, we can take it away. We can accept the fact that there is variation between all of us, and variation's a good thing. We don't want to all look alike. We don't want to all be alike. But we don't need to judge people based on variation, and we don't need to categorize people either. But, it's kind of a slippery slope, because you don't want to... A lot of race has created different cultures, and those cultures are very important to people, and you don't want to take away that culture. You just want to take away the idea that one culture is better than another, or one race is better than another.
Gotcha. That makes a lot of sense, and I think a lot of people can agree with that. So there was, and you've touched on this actually a little bit, but there was a lot of comparison between races of dogs and breeds of dogs, and to the different quote unquote races of humans. Is that a fair comparison to make, or is that kind of a false comparison?
So, in my opinion, I don't believe it's fair, because, and I actually looked this up, the definition of what a breed is, and breed implies that you've been selectively breeding. You've been selectively having certain things mate to create a certain product. And we haven't done that. Everybody has their preferences, so everybody, looks for different things in a mate. So, we are selective in that fact. But it's not we're oh, this person looks exactly like this person, let's have them mate. And we don't continually do that. There's been constant gene flow, and we haven't had major, geographical barriers that prevent us from mating with each other. I could, get on a plane right now and fly to Russia and then be with that person, and then, I could mate with them. That's not a problem. That's why gene flow is continued. And so we haven't had selective breeding by any means. The closest thing we've had to that was when eugenics was a thing. but even then, it wasn't anywhere near to what has happened because of dog breeds, because dog breeds have been going on. We've been selectively breeding dogs for so long, and it would take a really long time to get anywhere close to that with humans. And I know there was an argument made about designer babies and picking out, like, you know, the eye color, the hair color, which personally I think is a little weird. I guess I can see, you know, everybody, like, I guess has an ideal baby or something that they have in mind. But even that I think is a little different from full eugenics, because, you know, whenever we tried to enforce eugenics, it was like, let's sterilize everybody that's not ideal and prevent them from mating,
Right.
which was like a whole nother problem in itself. And so, but even then we never got to the point where it could be anywhere close to breeds. And you also can't say it's like a dog breed compared to a human race. Like, those aren't, you can't even equate them. Not to mention that mainly whenever we talk about race, we're just talking about skin color. So that would be like, oh, an apricot poodle is completely different than a black poodle. Like, that's what you would be saying if you were going to actually equate it to humans. At least that's kind of how I see it.
Gotcha. Well, so we're kind of coming to the end of this interview here, and I guess I want to give you the chance to, what would you like to leave people with at the end of this interview, and, you know, kind of the best advice you can muster for discussing this topic and moving forward in the future?
I mean, probably the top thing that I want people to walk away with is knowing that there isn't a biological foundation for race. Because I know I didn't know this, and I know a lot of people didn't, because people that I shared this information with, they had no idea. And I think that if more people had that knowledge, I don't think it's going to completely take away racism. I don't know if that's ever really possible, just because, you know, there are always going to be those shitty people in the world. But I think it might help people start to realize that you're not as different as you think. You're not that different from a person who just simply has a different skin color than you. And maybe realizing that it's something that we constructed and that we are what keeps fueling it, rather than any biological definition or anything like that, might start to help people be able to see that maybe this isn't okay, because it's not okay. And, you know, I'm a big advocate for equality, obviously, based on everything I've said. And I just think that if people were more aware and that they did more research on how people did vary, then maybe that would help them in their arguments. So, like, anybody who's trying to argue against racism, I mean, I don't really want to give advice for people trying to argue for racism, but anybody arguing against would be to try to bring that awareness to those facts and, like, encourage people to do research and to learn new things and, like, just learn about how humans vary in general. So me learning about how people vary across the world and different adaptations to different climates and, like, environments, that was really enlightening for me. And that made me realize, like, how much we do vary, but how similar we are at the same time. And just stop looking at variation as a bad thing, and stop looking at it as something like, oh, I'm just so different from them, and that's so bad, and that makes them, you know, I can't even associate with them. Like, that shouldn't be a thing. We should accept variation, and there's nothing wrong with it. And definitely don't try to go through life and be like, I don't see color, because it's okay to see that people look different. That's not bad. It's just not okay to start judging people differently and, you know, to say that you're better than them.
Exactly. You know, and you've definitely done your part with spreading this knowledge, coming out and doing this interview, which I definitely want to thank you for, and sending those emails out to everybody. I got to take a look at those the other day, and a lot of it's over my head, but I'm sure smarter people can take a look at that and definitely make some progress with it. A big thank you, Emma. We love having you on the show. We can't wait to have you on in the future. Love talking to you.
Yeah, well, no, it was my pleasure. I look forward to hopefully being able to contribute on some other things. If you have anything about brains, I'd be happy to talk about that.
Perfect. I'll let you pick my brain sometime.
All right. Thank you, Brendan.
No problem. Bye-bye.
Yay!
Out of time here, so we're going to go ahead and move on to the food challenge section of the podcast here. And we are excited. So what we're going to go ahead and do is start out with the... I guess we'll do the pretzels and salsa here. I'm not actually I'm kind of excited for this one. I'm sure it'll be fine. All right, here we go. Let me go get those pretzels real quick.
I personally am not a fan of salsa, but I'm willing to try this one out. But if I don't like it, then it's probably just because I'm not a fan of salsa to begin with.
Here's a pretzel for you.
There's like salsa in my hand.
Yeah. Sorry, we didn't plan this one out as well. What do you think? Did you try it?
No, I haven't tried. I was gonna wait for you and see what you thought.
Oh, okay.
I don't have a lot of salsa on my pretzel.
You're welcome to. You're definitely welcome to more salsa. All right, here.
Okay, how's that? It's actually not bad.
That's pretty good. I think it's mostly that the salsa is really good. Mm-hmm. You can't really taste the pretzel, but
I didn't think this one was gonna be terrible, but since I just wasn't a fan of it at first, like, it actually isn't bad though. Which I kind of like it, which is weird because I don't even like salsa.
nah, that's pretty good. Josh L gave us that. No, wait, no, Josh didn't give us that one. Who gave us the salsa? Was it Nicholas Alexander? I think he was the one that gave us.
I think so.
Yeah, we didn't look up everybody's name here, so sorry about that. We're not going to be able to give you credit. I'll give you credit afterwards.
Okay. What's the next one you want to try? You want to do the pizza and apple butter?
We're going to do... Okay, we'll do the pizza and the apple butter
And
here.
Michaela gave us the idea for this one, and I went and ordered an Emo's pizza because St. Louis pizza is the best. What kind of apple butter did we get?
So I got the first apple butter I found. It's Dickinson's country apple butter. I knew it was better because it says country in it. I can already hear everybody bitching at us for using Emo's pizza because they hate it, but we both like Emo's pizza, so they can suck a dick. Oh, that apple butter just smells like straight applesauce.
Okay.
We better get the knife.
Yeah. We're using cold pepperoni pizza, but I like cold pizza better anyways.
It'll go better with the temperature of the apple butter.
Exactly. Here, you need a piece.
Now, she said dip it in apple butter, but
Yeah. Should
I'm
we
just
spread
going to
it on there?
spread it
Okay.
on there. I'll let you.
I don't know how I feel about this one.
I'm actually kind of excited for it. I mean, I'm excited for any food, especially when it involves pizza.
See, I'm not even that big of a fan of pizza, to be honest with you, but I love apple butter. I have to be in, like, a certain mood to eat pizza. Like, I have to... I don't even know, but...
You're the only person I've ever met that says they have to be in a certain mood to eat pizza.
It's actually really good.
That's delicious.
Oh my god. That is so good.
Wow.
Michaela, you just changed my life.
This is the only way I'm ever eating pizza again.
I know. My mom makes hella apple butter, so...
Oh, really?
Yeah, we have a ton in my basement. I'm
Sure, I
getting
should've
another bite. I'm getting another slice. This is so good.
Man, she wasn't wrong. Sweet and salty. Wins again. Oh, man.
Holy cow, that was good.
Oh, boy. All right. Well, what's next on our list here?
I think we should try the Cheetos.
The Cheetos. Oh, yeah. We have to make that. We have to use that knife again, too.
Holy cow, that pizza was good.
Okay, so this one is crunchy peanut butter specifically. Wheat bread. This is the one Josh gave us, actually. Wheat bread, which we have here. We got the whole grain oat nut, actually. I really love this bread.
I like that bread too. By the way, I know I've like said this 20 times in our group, but I'm a super, super like healthy eater now, so I'm kind of dying inside.
I do not eat healthy at all, so this is like right up my alley. So
Between this, and I had crown candy yesterday, between that BLT and the chocolate malt, and now this, my body's destroyed.
my dad loves that BLT at Crown Candy.
Good.
He says they put like an obnoxious amount of bacon.
Yeah,
on
like
it.
15 pieces of bacon on there, not like no joke.
Holy shit.
It's good.
Better be 15 pieces of bacon. I guess we should have grabbed a plate.
We have a bowl.
Oh, that's right. We do have a bowl. I guess we could flip it upside down.
Exactly. We're just cutting the sandwich in half.
Yeah, that's what I figured we'd do. Move the spoons out of the way. So, do you like crunchy peanut butter? I know people are split on it.
My favorite is crunchy peanut butter. I'm really excited that it was the crunchy one because it's way better than smooth.
I like crunchy peanut butter too, but I don't ever buy it, so I always buy Jiffy Smooth.
I don't eat enough peanut butter to like go out of my way to go get some. I just eat whatever my parents get.
Isn't that how we all live? This is actually the extra crunchy too. So it was the only one I could find that wasn't fat free. And I figured we're already doing this, might as well get the
Exactly.
full fat.
Yeah, I'm
Now-
enjoying this.
He specifically said to stuff a lot of these on there, so we can't joke around with the jalapeno Cheetos.
I've never had a jalapeno Cheeto before.
Do you want to try one real quick?
No, I want to be surprised
Oh, okay.
in the sandwich. But you're gonna eat one.
Yeah, I'm gonna eat one. I can't help myself. You know,
How much peanut butter do I put on there?
I would just don't skimp on it. We have to stick them in there, so.
Okay, that's true.
There's gonna be so many extra sounds we have in this podcast with all the making and cooking and things we're doing. Well, not cooking, but
I'm having some more of that apple butter
Pizza.
pizza after though. I'm finishing that pizza with apple butter.
For
That
sure.
was good.
All right, I think that's enough peanut butter.
Okay. All right.
So
Hold
we'll
on.
just-
Ready for? Oh. Just gonna stick it in there.
Yeah,
Throw it in the
no,
stove.
I'm just gonna go and ham on it. We're putting it. There's gonna be.
Those are big Cheetos.
Yeah, there are. Well, it's kind of a mixed bag. See what I did there. But we're not fucking around with these. We're gonna put a ton of them on there. That's what he said to do.
I'm gonna die.
They're not that spicy though. They're just the jalapeno ones. It's not like they're the flaming hot Cheetos. We should take a picture of this and post it with the. Oh, is that what you're doing?
Yep.
Oh, you're way ahead of me. All right. I think that's enough.
All right.
So then we'll throw this bread on top there.
I'm just gonna. Do we want to cut it in half, or are we just gonna rip it?
Just cut it in half. It's fine.
Okay.
Now I always cut diagonal. I don't know how you cut it.
I usually just cut straight
All
down.
right,
'cause
that's
it's
fine.
easier, but I'll do diagonal if you want it.
I demand diagonal cut bread. It's the only way I'll eat it. It makes it taste better. Did you get through it?
I read that yesterday, actually, that it makes it taste better whenever you cut it diagonally.
It's true. It's 100%. It's
Alright.
easier to eat.
This is-
Now, I would like to make a note that he said to dip this in ravioli sauce,
Oh,
but
yeah.
fuck that. We're not doing it. Screw you, Josh.
The peanut butter and the Cheetos is enough. Okay,
Oh.
ready?
You can't really taste the Cheetos.
I'm not a fan of the texture. That's my big problem.
Really?
Now I taste the Cheetos.
It is a lot of crunch. It's very dry. It's very dry.
It's not bad, though.
No, I mean, it's not like... Oh, there's that spice. Well, my bet I didn't get as many Cheetos as you did.
Maybe.
No. Not bad. I don't know how this would be dipped in ravioli sauce, though.
Ravioli, ravioli, give me the fummy-woli.
I bet that might help with the dryness.
That's probably what it's for. Who? Did somebody else come up with this, or is this like an original recipe?
Well, Josh just said it was his. Now,
What kind of drugs are you on, Josh?
well, a lot, apparently.
I feel like this was like something that was made if somebody was high and they're like, oh my god, I'm hungry. What do I have? Okay, I got bread. I got Cheetos. I got ravioli sauces with peanut butter. Let's do this.
Right. Even that's weird because you would think he'd just eat a peanut butter sandwich. I know what happened. He ate a Cheeto, and before he finished swallowing, he took a bite of peanut butter sandwich, and it was born. That had to be what happened. The spice
Probably.
isn't bad, though.
It doesn't taste bad. I don't know how I feel about it yet.
Yeah. I'll give it like a 6 out of 10.
I can agree with that.
Well. Alright. Well, we have...
Milk and crackers.
Oh, great. So this one was given to us on a separate thread, actually. I got my crackers right here. This is saltine crackers and milk mixed together. Now, we were given very specific instructions on this. 2/3 crackers, 1/3 milk was the specific instructions we were given. We're going to do our best. And we were also told not to crunch them up too much So, or else they'll get soggy, which I don't see how you can avoid that
Yeah.
in this situation.
Honestly, if the milk had cinnamon in it, it would be creme de la Edgar, like on the Aristocats.
Oh, that's right. That's right. This aristocrat bullshit. Alright, I'll just break them into like 4s and stuff. I think this is enough.
I feel like we should have got like a palate cleaner.
Oh yeah, I meant to bring up water. I totally forgot. You can drink some of the milk.
I'll do it.
Oh, you guys probably heard that obnoxious
So
buzzing.
are we
That
supposed
was
to
my
let it
phone.
like sit in milk and eat it like cereal?
No, from what I understand, it has to be fresh, like right away. Like you don't want your cereal getting soggy, so you don't want your crackers and milk getting soggy.
Where'd the spoons go?
Oh, they're right here. So, you think that's enough crackers?
I think that's good. I think just for like a taste test, we've eaten a lot already.
Yeah, that's true. And I'm not trying to eat like a lot of this, so. All right, so I'll just.
Oh, I don't even like cereal, so this is freaking me out.
Okay, there we go. So that's enough milk, and we poured a lot of milk in this, like a whole glass of milk. All right, so I guess,
Now?
hang on, we got to mix it up.
Oh,
You don't.
Is this? I feel like this is a college kid creation. Like they're like, I'm so broke, but I have milk and crackers, so we're just gonna go with it. Like this is.
It was described as a poor man's meal, and it was made by the kid who suggested its dad. He showed him this, and so your dad is on a lot of drugs, or just is fucking or really loves the aristocrats apparently, Aristocats.
Yeah, that's a difference.
Right. So we'll go ahead and.
This is stressful.
It is a little. I'm not looking forward to this one. So I don't know if I want to get like a good amount of milk. I feel like I got a good spoonful.
Okay. Not a fan.
No. I like how instant that was.
Yeah.
It's not that it's gross. It's boring.
There's nothing to it.
Yeah, it's just really boring. I was worried that like the saltiness was gonna not mix well with the milk, but that's just not the case.
I mean, if I had $2 in my bank account, then yeah, I would love this. But I mean,
definitely a poor man's meal.
yeah, for sure.
All right. Well, so what are you gonna rate this one? Like 3 out of 10?
2.5.
2. 3 is
It's
too
not
much.
like it's gross. There's just absolutely no flavor to it.
Right.
Like it'll fill you up if you're trying to find like a filler or something. But
Right. It's protein and carbs.
hashtag first form.
Right.
This is my hashtag first form meal.
Okay. Well, I think that's going to wrap us up for the day. I don't think any of us are going to be... I'm going to go down a gallon of bleach to get some of this taste out of my mouth.
That's true.
I want to give a special thanks to Mackenzie Heritage for helping me out with this. She has a producer credit for sure. A big thank you to Emma Trammell for doing that interview with us earlier. And a big thank you to my co-host, Haley Fields,
You're welcome.
for coming on here with me. This will be a weekly podcast. If you guys would, please subscribe to us on YouTube. On the YouTube channel this is posted on, and I'm not 100% how SoundCloud works, but if you can subscribe on there as well, we would appreciate it. Stay active in the group, implying we can discuss life, and we will see you folks next week.